She lifted her glass and smiled like she had practiced it. "I couldn't have done this without cutting off some dead weight," she said, laughing softly. Then she looked straight at me. The room laughed with her. I felt every eye turn. I didn't move. I didn't argue. I just stayed where I was, holding my drink, watching her celebrate the life she said I was slowing down. I could have left, but I stayed until the final announcement. And that's when everything shifted. Stay with me, because what happened at the end of that night wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was quiet, and it changed how I saw her, how I saw myself, and what our marriage really was. The party was on the 32nd floor of the Meridian Tower, all glass walls and soft gold lighting, the kind of place that makes you feel smaller than the skyline behind you. Lena stood near the center, surrounded by people from her firm. She had just been promoted to senior partner at Hallbrook & Vance, a corporate strategy group that liked to talk about disruption and long-term value. She looked like she belonged there. Sharp navy dress, hair pinned back, controlled smile. I stood near the bar, a step outside her circle. When she called me dead weight, it wasn't shouted. It was delivered like a joke, polite, controlled, the kind of insult that hides behind humor. "I finally learned that growth means letting go of dead weight," she said, lifting her glass, "even at home." There was a ripple of laughter. I felt heat move up my neck, but my hands stayed steady. I took a sip. The whiskey burned, but it helped me breathe. I told myself she didn't mean it, that she was riding the adrenaline of the promotion, that she needed to look strong. But when her eyes met mine, she didn't look embarrassed. She looked relieved. Earlier that week, we'd argued about money, not because we were broke, we weren't, but because Lena had started separating everything. Separate accounts, separate savings. She said it was cleaner that way. "You don't understand how these things work," she told me at the kitchen counter. "Your business hasn't exactly been thriving." My business. I run a small logistics consultancy. It's steady, not glamorous, not 32nd floor glass wall glamorous, but steady. She had started calling it your little thing. At the party, her colleagues kept drifting toward me. "Hey man," one of them said. Trevor, I think. Tall, clean haircut. "You must be proud of her." "I am," I said. He nodded, but his eyes slid away quickly, like he wasn't sure how long to stand next to me. That was new. Over the past year, Lena had stopped introducing me as her husband. It was Ethan, just my name, no title attached. Small changes. I didn't notice them at first, or maybe I did and chose not to. As the night went on, speeches started. The managing director talked about Lena's independence and fearless decision-making, words like that. Then Lena took the microphone again. "I used to think loyalty meant carrying everything together, but sometimes loyalty to yourself means cutting ties that slow you down." Her gaze found me again. This time there was no laughter, just a few awkward smiles. I felt something twist in my chest. Not anger, not exactly. More like a quiet realization forming. Was I actually slowing her down? I replayed the last 2 years in my mind. The late nights, the missed dinners, the times I told her to rest, the times she accused me of not understanding ambition. Maybe I had held her back without meaning to. That doubt settled in heavy. Around 9, she moved to the far side of the room to speak privately with Arthur Bellamy, the founder of the firm. He was older, quiet, and known for reading people carefully. I watched them from across the room. Arthur wasn't smiling. He listened, really listened, his head tilted slightly. Lena's hands moved fast when she spoke,
quick, sharp gestures. Then he glanced toward me, just once. I looked away first. The band started playing something soft and forgettable. Waiters carried trays of small, expensive-looking food I couldn't name. I checked my phone. No messages. Part of me wanted to leave, to walk out quietly and let her have her moment without the burden she clearly believed I was. But something held me there. Not pride, not revenge, just curiosity. At 10:15, Arthur stepped onto the small stage near the windows. Before we close the evening, there's one more announcement. Lena's face lit up. She wasn't expecting that. I could tell by the slight lift of her eyebrows. He continued, "We've decided to launch a new division next quarter. It will require someone who understands operational logistics, not just strategy." A few heads turned. Arthur looked down at his notes, then back up. "I've been reviewing potential external consultants." My stomach tightened. This wasn't about me. It couldn't be. Lena's smile stayed fixed, but her fingers gripped her glass a little too tightly. I noticed the way her jaw set. Arthur went on. "I need someone grounded, someone who builds systems quietly." His eyes moved across the room and stopped on me. For a second, I thought I imagined it. Lena's shoulders stiffened beside me. I hadn't even realized she had come to stand that close. Arthur said my name. Clear, steady. Ethan Cole. The room shifted. Not dramatically, just a subtle change in posture, in breathing. Lena didn't look at me. She kept her eyes forward. Arthur continued speaking, but I wasn't fully hearing him. Something about experience, about stability, about conversations he and I had months ago at a charity dinner Lena barely remembered. Conversations I assumed meant nothing. Lena finally turned her head toward me. Her expression wasn't anger, it was confusion, a small crack in the certainty she'd been wearing all night. I didn't smile, I didn't react. I just stood there, holding my glass, feeling the weight of the word she'd used earlier. Dead weight. For the first time that evening, I wondered if she truly believed it, or if she needed to. Arthur finished his announcement. Applause followed, polite, measured applause. Lena leaned closer to me. "When did this happen?" she whispered. Her voice wasn't sharp, it was tight. I met her eyes. "Months ago," I said quietly. And for the first time that night, she didn't have a prepared response.
The applause faded into low conversation. Arthur stepped down from the stage and moved toward a small group near the windows. A few people approached me, offering brief congratulations. Their smiles were polite, cautious, not warm, not yet. Lena stayed beside me, but her body had shifted. Her shoulders were still straight, but her fingers pressed hard against her glass. Her knuckles had gone pale. "When were you planning to tell me?" she asked, still smiling for the room. "I didn't think it was final," I replied. "That's not what I asked." Her tone was controlled, too controlled. I looked at her carefully. For a moment, I saw something I hadn't seen in a while. Not anger, not pride. Fear. Arthur reached us then. He shook my hand firmly. "Ethan," he said, "I'm glad you're here tonight. It's important people see the full picture." "The full picture?" Lena asked lightly. Arthur turned to her. "Yes," he said, "we've been reviewing some internal projections. Ethan raised concerns months ago about structural gaps in the expansion plan." Lena's smile held, barely. "I don't remember that," she said. Arthur didn't argue, he just nodded slowly. You were focused on the acquisition deal at the time. The air felt different, not hostile, just heavier. I hadn't planned for any of this. The conversation Arthur and I had shared at that charity dinner was casual. We spoke about supply chains, timing, operational stress during rapid scaling. I didn't know he'd taken it seriously. Lena had been across the room that night, laughing with a client. Now she looked at me as if I had stepped somewhere I wasn't supposed to. Arthur excused himself, leaving us alone again. "You went behind my back," she said quietly. "I didn't. You talked to my firm about their strategy. We were having a conversation." Her jaw tightened. "You made me look like I don't understand my own division." "That's not what happened." She exhaled slowly, looking out at the skyline. "I've worked for this for years," she said. "You think I don't know that?" "I know you worked for it. Then why would you do that?" Her eyes searched mine, not accusing this time, searching. I hesitated, because I wasn't sure myself. Maybe I wanted to feel relevant. Maybe I wanted someone in her world to see me as more than an accessory. But that wasn't the full truth. "I saw risks," I said, "and I mentioned them." She gave a short, quiet laugh. Risks, as if the word itself offended her. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The band shifted to a louder song. People began drifting back toward drinks and small conversations. The formal part of the evening was dissolving. Lena finally said, "You embarrassed me." The words were softer than before. No performance, no audience. I felt something tighten in my chest. "I didn't try to. You let him say your name like that in front of everyone. I didn't control that." She looked away again. "I needed tonight to be clean." Clean. That word stayed with me. Clean of what? Of me? I thought about the past year, the way she had started correcting my stories when we were with her colleagues. "He means smaller clients," she would say when I described my projects, or "it's more of a side consultancy." At first, I assumed she was simplifying. Later, I realized she was shrinking me, subtly, carefully. I had let it happen, because I didn't want to make scenes, because I believed partnership meant absorbing small wounds quietly. Standing there now, I felt the weight of that pattern. "Do you think I'm dead weight?" I asked. She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes flickered, a micro-expression, almost regret, then it vanished. "It seems to me that sometimes people hold on to things that no longer fit the direction they're going." The sentence was practiced, corporate, safe, but it landed. "So I don't fit?" I asked. She inhaled sharply. "That's not what I said." "It sounds like it." Silence stretched between us. Not loud, not dramatic, just long enough to make breathing noticeable. A couple walked past us laughing loudly. The sound felt far away. Lena's posture softened slightly. "I've had to fight for everything," she said. "I can't afford doubt. I can't afford hesitation." "And I'm hesitation?" "You question things." "Yes." "You slow things down?" "Yes." "That's not how this firm operates." I studied her face. For the first time, I wondered if she believed she was protecting herself, if cutting dead weight wasn't cruelty in her mind, but survival. The thought unsettled me, because it made her human. "I never tried to compete with you," I said quietly. She looked at me then, really looked. "I know." The admission was small, honest.
And I never wanted you smaller. I just needed you less visible. The words hung there. Less visible. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, clarity. Over the past year, I had been dimming myself, speaking less in her spaces, letting her narrative stand unchallenged. Because I loved her. Because I thought support meant silence. Arthur's announcement hadn't just surprised Lena, it had exposed something else. I wasn't invisible to everyone, just to her. Across the room, I noticed Trevor watching us, curious, assessing. Lena noticed too. Her spine straightened again. "We'll talk about this at home," she said. There it was. Control reasserted. But I wasn't sure it would work the same way anymore. As the party began to thin out, Arthur approached me once more. "We should schedule a formal meeting next week. This role will require commitment." Commitment. The word echoed. Lena stood beside me, silent. I nodded. "I'll think about it," I said. Arthur smiled faintly. "Take your time. The firm values stability." When he walked away, Lena exhaled. "You're actually considering it?" she asked. "I don't know yet." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "If you take that role, everything changes." I met her gaze. "Maybe it already has." She didn't reply. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of the silence between us.
We didn't speak on the drive home. Lena stared out the passenger window, city lights sliding across her face in quiet flashes. Her jaw stayed tight. One hand rested on her lap, fingers tapping once every few seconds, controlled, measured. I kept both hands on the wheel. The word commitment replayed in my head. Not just about the firm, about us. When we reached the house, she stepped out before I turned off the engine. No waiting, no glance back. Inside, she slipped off her heels and placed them carefully by the door. That small precision told me more than anger would have. She was thinking. I poured 2 glasses of water and handed one to her. She didn't take it at first. Then she did. "Are you going to accept it?" she asked. "I haven't decided." "You already decided. You just don't want to say it." I leaned against the counter. "Why does it feel like a threat to you?" "It's not a threat. It feels like one." She set the glass down harder than necessary. "You stepped into my environment without asking. I had a conversation. You let him think you could fix something I built." The sentence landed differently this time. Not accusation, insecurity. "I didn't say I could fix it. I said there were operational risks." "You always see risks." "Yes. That's why you've never scaled your own firm." The words were sharp, but they weren't shouted. I felt the old instinct rise, defend, argue, prove, but I stopped. Instead, I asked, "Do you want a partner or a reflection?" She blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means if you only want agreement, you don't want me." Silence. Real silence. The kind that exposes everything underneath. She looked away first. "You're twisting this," she said softly. "No." "Yes, you're making it about ego." I almost laughed. "Isn't it?" Her eyes snapped back to mine. "You think I'm egotistical?" "I think you've been distancing yourself." She folded her arms, defensive now. "I've been evolving, and I haven't?" She hesitated. That hesitation said more than any answer. Upstairs, the bedroom light flicked on automatically when she entered. She began removing her jewelry in slow, deliberate motions, each piece placed precisely on the dresser. "I can't have instability around me right now." "Instability?" "You question decisions publicly." "I didn't question you publicly. You allowed doubt." There it was again, doubt, as if doubt itself was betrayal. I thought we valued honesty in private. And what about in public? In public, unity matters. I sat on the edge of the bed. Unity or image? Her eyes hardened. You don't understand how fragile perception is. And you don't understand how fragile trust is. The air shifted again. She paused mid-motion, a bracelet still half unhooked. Are you accusing me of something? I'm asking when I became a liability. She finally turned fully toward me. You became a liability when your hesitation started affecting how people see me. I felt something settle inside my chest. Cold, clear. So this is about perception. It's about trajectory. And I don't match it. She didn't answer. The silence this time was heavy. I lay back against the headboard and stared at the ceiling. A year ago, we used to talk about building something together, expanding, traveling, investing. Then her firm started restructuring. Longer hours, new circles, new language. I adapted quietly, or at least I thought I had. Why didn't you tell me about the consultancy talks? I didn't think they were serious. That's not why. Then why? Because you knew I wouldn't approve. The accusation lingered. Maybe she was right. Maybe some part of me knew she'd see it as competition. You've been shrinking me in your world, I said carefully. That's not true. It is. She shook her head, but her eyes flickered. You've corrected my stories, minimized my work, stopped introducing me as your husband. That's dramatic. It's accurate. Her breathing shifted, slightly faster. I needed space. From me? From expectations. What expectations? She looked tired suddenly. Everyone assumes the husband supports, that he stands behind. And that bothers you? Yes. The honesty surprised me. I didn't want to be seen as someone who needed a steady spouse to balance me. You think I'm just balance? She swallowed. I think you're safe. Safe. The word felt small. And safety isn't impressive? I asked. She didn't respond. The realization came slowly. She wasn't trying to hurt me. She was trying to outgrow the version of herself that depended on anyone, even me. The problem was she'd redefined dependence as weakness and weakness as something disposable. I called you dead weight, I said quietly. Her eyes closed briefly. It was a joke. No, it wasn't. She didn't argue that time. Another silence filled the room. Not explosive, not dramatic, just truth sitting between us. Finally, she said, if you take that role, it changes the power dynamic. There it was. Power. Not love, not partnership. Power. I sat up slowly. So that's what this is. She looked at me, but didn't deny it. For the first time, I saw it clearly. She didn't want me gone. She wanted me contained, predictable, supporting, invisible. Arthur's announcement had cracked that balance, and now neither of us knew what would happen next.
I didn't sleep much that night. Lena lay on her side of the bed facing the wall. Her breathing stayed steady, but I knew she wasn't fully asleep either. Every time I shifted, her shoulders tightened slightly. Around 3 in the morning, I stopped trying. I went downstairs and sat at the kitchen table in the dark. The word power kept circling in my head, not in a dramatic way, not like a battle, just in small, invisible exchanges. Who introduces whom? Who speaks first? Who corrects the story? I opened my laptop, not to accept Arthur's offer, just to look at the email thread. The first message from him was 8 months old. He had reached out after that charity dinner. A brief note. Your comments about operational sequencing were thoughtful. Would you be open to coffee? I had almost ignored it. Lena was in the middle of negotiating her promotion at the time. I didn't want to interfere. But I went. 3 coffees over 3 months. Quiet conversations, no contracts, no promises, just professional respect. I never told Lena because I didn't think it mattered.
Now I wondered if I hadn't told her because I knew she would see it as crossing a line. At 7, Lena came downstairs. She looked composed again, hair pulled back, neutral expression. "Did you sleep?" she asked. "Some." She poured herself coffee, no sugar. "We need to handle this carefully," she said. "Handle what?" "The optics." There it was again. Optics. Not feelings, not us. If you take the role, it needs to look collaborative, not corrective. Corrective. Yes, it can't look like you're stepping in to fix something I built. I'm not stepping in to fix anything. Then what are you stepping in to do? I held her gaze. Be visible. She didn't respond immediately. That's exactly what complicates things, she said quietly. Why? Because visibility creates comparisons. With who? With me. The honesty was raw now. You think we'll compare us? I asked. They already do. I hadn't noticed. Or maybe I had and pretended not to. I never tried to compete, I said. I know, but you've been competing with me. Her lips parted slightly. That's not fair, isn't it? Silence. This time it felt different. Not tense, just exposed. She sat down across from me. For years, she said slowly, I was the one trying to catch up. You were steady, grounded, calm. Everyone liked you. I blinked. I didn't know you felt that way. Of course you didn't. You were comfortable. And you weren't? No. Her fingers wrapped around the mug tightly. When the firm started accelerating my career, it felt like proof that I wasn't just supporting. You were never just supporting. That's easy for you to say. I realized something then. Her ambition wasn't just about success, it was about rewriting an old insecurity, and I had accidentally become part of the comparison. When Arthur said your name, I felt exposed. Why? Because I didn't see it coming. That's not exposure, that's surprise. It felt like losing control. There it was. Control. Not dominance, not cruelty. Control. Over narrative, over trajectory, over perception. If I accept, I said slowly, it doesn't mean I'm correcting you. It changes how people see us. Maybe that's okay. She studied me carefully. And if they see you as more grounded, more stable, why would that be a problem? Her jaw tightened again. You really don't see it. Then explain it. She hesitated. If you become the stabilizing force publicly, it shifts who appears stronger. I leaned back. So this is about strength. It's about hierarchy. In our marriage, the word wasn't spoken, but it was there. For the first time, I questioned something I had never questioned before. Had we been operating inside an invisible ranking system? Not consciously, but subtly. Career speed, income growth, social presence, and somewhere along the way, love had started sharing space with measurement. You called me dead weight, I said again, softer now. Her eyes dropped. I said something reckless. No, you said something honest. That hit her. Her shoulders sank slightly. I don't want to lose you, she said quietly. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't pleading. It was simple. But I don't want to feel smaller either. I never asked you to be smaller. I know. We sat there in stillness. Then she asked, if I accept, what does it mean for us? I thought carefully before answering. It means we stop pretending we're not equals. Her expression shifted. And if I can't handle that? She asked. That question stayed between us. Honest, fragile. I don't know, I admitted. Later that afternoon, Arthur called. I'll need your answer by Friday, he said calmly. The board wants clarity. Board. The word echoed. More structure, more visibility. After I hung up, Lena was watching me from across the room. Friday, she said. Yes. She nodded slowly.
Whatever you decide, decide it for you, not to prove something. The request surprised me. Why would you say that? Because if this becomes about proving strength, we both lose. Her eyes held mine. For the first time since the party, there was no defensiveness, just uncertainty and something else. Respect. But respect alone wasn't enough to answer the question sitting between us. If I stepped into that role, would we rise together? Or would one of us finally have to admit we never built the same thing?
Friday came faster than I expected. The house felt quieter that morning. Not tense, just aware. Every movement felt intentional. Lena was already dressed when I came downstairs. Neutral gray suit, no jewelry except her watch. "Have you decided?" she asked. "Yes." She didn't push for the answer. She just nodded and poured coffee. I stepped outside onto the patio with my phone. The air was cool, steady. I dialed Arthur. He answered on the second ring. "Ethan, I've made my decision," I said. "I'm listening." There was a pause. Not pressured, just open. "I won't be joining the firm." Silence. Not shocked, just processing. "May I ask why?" Arthur said. "Yes, because if I step into that role right now, it won't be about the work. It will be about proving something." Another pause. "That's a fair assessment," he replied calmly. "And what are you choosing instead?" "I'm expanding my own consultancy." There was a shift in his tone. Subtle approval. "I had a feeling," he said. "I don't want to build inside someone else's structure. I want to build mine properly." Arthur exhaled softly. "Then let me know when you're ready to collaborate, independently." "I will." We ended the call. I stood there for a moment, letting the decision settle. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't triumphant. It was clear. When I walked back inside, Lena looked up. "Well?" she asked. I declined. Her expression didn't change immediately. "And?" she said. "And I'm expanding my own firm." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Expanding how?" "I've been sitting on 3 potential contracts for months. I avoided them because I didn't want more attention." She absorbed that quietly. "You avoided growth?" she asked. "Yes." "Why?" "Because I didn't want it to look like competition." The honesty landed between us. She stepped closer. "And now?" "Now I don't think we should shrink ourselves to protect each other." Her posture softened. "So you're not staying small?" "No." "And you're not stepping into my world either?" "No." She studied my face carefully. "You're building your own?" "Yes." A long silence followed. This one wasn't heavy. It was recalibrating. "Do you resent me?" she asked suddenly. The question surprised me. "No," I said after a moment. "But I did start doubting myself." Her eyes flickered. "When I called you dead weight," she began, "you meant that I didn't match your speed." She nodded slowly. "I thought speed meant strength," she admitted. "And now?" "I'm not sure." We stood there without speaking. For the first time in months, there was no ranking system between us, no invisible scale. Just 2 people looking at what they had built. "I don't want to compete with you," she said quietly. "Then don't." "I don't know how to stop measuring." "Then maybe we both stop measuring." She gave a faint, almost tired smile. "That sounds easier than it is." "I know." Later that week, I signed 2 new contracts, smaller than Arthur's offer, slower growth, but mine. Lena stayed late at the office most nights, not avoiding me, just adjusting. The distance between us wasn't hostile anymore. It was honest. One evening, about a month later, she came home earlier than usual. "I've been thinking. About why I needed you to look smaller." I didn't interrupt. "When I was younger, my father used to compare everything. Grades, achievements, who was ahead." I listened. "I learned early that being second meant being invisible." Her voice was steady, but her fingers were tight around the glass she was holding. "So when my career accelerated, I needed it to be undeniable. And I threatened that? Not intentionally." Silence. "I'm sorry," she said. The words were simple, unpolished, real. "I'm sorry too." "For what?" "For disappearing to make you comfortable." Her eyes softened. We weren't fixed, not magically repaired, but something had shifted. Not power, not hierarchy, clarity. A few weeks later, we attended another firm event, smaller this time. When someone asked about my work, Lena didn't correct me. She didn't minimize. She listened. And when introductions were made, she said, "This is my husband, Ethan. He runs his own consultancy." No hesitation, no qualifiers, just fact. On the drive home, she reached over and rested her hand lightly on mine. "I never wanted to lose you," she said. "I never wanted to compete with you." We drove the rest of the way in comfortable quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't demand proof. The word dead weight still existed in our history, but it no longer defined us. It had clarified something. Strength isn't about speed, it isn't about visibility, and it isn't about shrinking someone else to feel taller. It's about knowing who you are, even when someone you love forgets, and choosing not to forget yourself in the process. That was the final announcement. Not at the party, but in the space we rebuilt after it.